Hey guys, Waterfowler41 here, and in today's video we're going to be turning my mirror turn signals into mirror and running signals, or running lights. So what we're going to be doing is using a kit from Boost Auto Parts. So this is the company that really got popular creating retrofit kits for GM tow mirrors. Now they got into the Ram market, and this is one of the harnesses that they sell. So here's what all comes in the kit, and this is the 2.0 kit. So what this is going to do is it's going to make this light turn on when the truck is on, and then when I turn my turn signal on, it's going to start blinking, but it'll always be on when the truck is on. So basically a running light on the side. Pretty cool little harness, and my in-laws were looking for something to get me for Christmas, so we went ahead with this, and there was a Black Friday sale that was pretty good. So what comes in the kit is these little controllers. So this is where the magic happens. This is what tells the mirror when to be powered on all the time versus when to operate as a turn signal. And then this gets wired into some plugs. And then here's your power wire to run the power for the running light itself. And then you're going to need to add a fuse. I already had a bunch of these, but you could actually purchase these from Boost Auto along with the kit. So again, this is the 2.0 kit. They also have a 1.0 kit, which I think it dims the light down when it's operating as running light. But anyway, I'll leave a link to both kits in the description of this video. But in this video, what I'll do is I'll show you how I wired this guy up to run as the mirror using this, or run as the running light using this kit. So it's gonna be super simple, with the exception of one part. So because we're talking about the mirror stuff, we're gonna need to remove the interior panel, and because we need to get a running signal into the door, we are gonna have to monkey around with these door harnesses again. Not as bad as my Paragoptics video, but there is an opening in between here, and we need to get the wire through this little accordion thing, through the opening, and then run it over to the fuse box over on the other side of the truck. So let's first go ahead and get this door panel removed. We're gonna remove this access panel, and that's gonna give us access to 3 10mm bolts. Once we get those 10mm bolts off, we're going to start pulling from the bottom left corner and work our way up and around the door. You do not want to start right here. This is a plastic weld right here. If you start pulling right here, you are going to split the door in half because there's a weak little plastic weld that's holding the two panels together. So we'll start in that bottom corner and pull everything off. By the time we get up here, we'll have enough leverage to pull things straight off, unplug everything, and pull the door completely off, start messing around with the mirror. So let's go ahead and get that door panel off. All right, so we have our door panel completely removed. Super simple, particularly on the passenger side. There's less plugs and everything going in on the control panel. So what we're focused on right now is this guy right here. This is the door module, and we are primarily focused on these two plugs right here. So this one and this one. So what we're gonna do is unplug this black plug, because this is the output from the door module into the mirror. And what we need to do is intercept certain signals so that we could tell the mirror to operate, or the mirror light to operate differently than how it was programmed to do from the factory. So super simple, just pull this plug right off. And then what we're gonna do is pull back some of the wire cover on here, so some of this tape, so we can get access to a couple wires, and I'll show you that in a minute. But that is where these little door modules come in. So this is what's going to tap into that little controller, and this is going to tell things to operate as a running light when the truck has power. So when there's power to this, or when there's power to the orange wire, and then when there's power to the blue wire, which is the turn signal, it's going to tell the light to operate like a turn signal, and then there's a ground on here. So let's go ahead and get these guys out of the bag, get this guy unplugged, and then start pulling off some of this tape so we can get access to the wires and tap into those. So let's do it. All right, so I have the harness pulled apart here, and there's two particular wires in the black plug that we're interested in. First of all is the gray wire in terminal 1. So this is not always going to be gray, but if you look at the plug, there's numbers on each of the terminals. We're interested in that terminal number 1. So when we want to pull in the mirror signal, that's where we're going to grab the mirror signal from. The second wire that we're interested in is the one on the opposite side of that same row. So in my case, it's going to be this brown wire. That's a ground wire. So the gray wire is going to give me my signal from the door module to turn the mirror on, and then the brown is going to give me my ground. So let's take a look at this real quick. So if we're looking at this plug, first thing we need to do is plug this little harness into here. Then what we're going to do is take the black wires. We're going to tie these into the brown wire using T-taps in this terminal here. We're not going to use this little plug. Then we're going to take the blue wire here, and this is what's going to tie in to the gray wire here, because that's going to be our mirror signal. So it's going to come out of the door module. It's going to tie into the blue wire. That signal is going to come through this harness going this way. And then this is the wire that gets connected to the other side of that gray wire. It'll make sense in a second once I start cutting things open here. But just know that the gray wire here is the LED signal, and that's what we're interrupting by tapping in here. And then we're going to control it differently with this. So this is the input side of the module, and this is the output. The output is going to go to the mirror LED. The input is coming from, the orange is coming from our running signal. Blue is coming from our turn signal. Black is going to be ground. All right, so let's take a look at what we got plugged in here. So again, we went ahead and clipped that gray wire that was in terminal 1 on the black plug that came out of the mirror module or the door module. That wire was clipped, and the wire that comes out of the plug itself is the input side, so that plugs into the blue wire on part of the Boost Auto harness. Then you take the other side of that gray wire that you clipped, and that's going to tie into the output side of the Boost Auto little module here, because again, this is what's going to the mirror, because then that signal goes back up right into the mirror here, but it's coming out of the door panel, has to pass through this module to control things differently, and then back into the mirror wiring. So now that we have this little loop pulled off or connected, we have 2 additional wires here. We have a black wire, and then we have the orange wire. The orange wire we're going to leave alone right now. The black wire is what's going to tap into the ground, because we need to ground this module now. So we're going to find the mirror or the wire that is located in the opposite terminal of the gray. So the gray wire was in terminal 1. We're going to find that brown wire, which is in the same row, but on the far terminal. So let's see. So it's this wire right here, way on the end here. So I'm going to pull that apart. And then what we're going to do is use these little T-taps. Not a huge fan of these things, but this works perfectly fine for this application. And this is just going to pinch around that wire and allow us to then plug in that terminal portion of that ground little wire harness into the T-tap, because all we got to do is just use that ground to ground the module and mirror signal and everything like that. So we'll do that. Then after we did that portion of it, we could go ahead, plug this guy back into the terminal, and that he's good for now. And then what we'll do is focus on pulling that running light signal, which has to be a wire that we run through the door, through the little door harness here, across over to the fuse box there. So I'll run this over there, we'll open up that door, finish it, and then I'll show you how to tie all the running lights in. Okay, we got our ground T-tap plugged in right here. You can see that's the black wire from the Boost Auto module. It's going right into the brown wire, and I apologize, it's terminal number 5 on the black plug. We have the gray wire coming out of the door module that plugs into the blue wire on the Boost Auto module. Then we have our orange wire left over. We have the orange output side. We know it's the output side because it says out on the back end of the module. That's plugged into the opposite end of that gray wire. So now the last thing we need to do is plug in our running light harness here. So we're going to find the shorter end of it. So the shorter end is the side of the wire assembly that doesn't have the fuse on it. And we're going to attach that to this guy right here. Once we do that, we can plug all this in and we're good to go. Now, after the wiring, we're now going to focus on running everything up. We're going to pop it through this door harness, and that's how we're then going to snake it through there. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we got to snake this orange wire up, follow the mirror harness, and then we got to pop it through this harness. Once we pop it through that harness, then we're going to have access to the inside of the door, and then we're going to want to remove the door harness here. So there's a flat tab here, super easy. Just take that, 2 hands, probably wiggle it right off there. And then on this one, we're going to pull back the rubber boot, and it'll expose a white ring, plastic ring that's around there that is kind of in the way. There's going to be a clip on the top of this guy and then 2 clips on the bottom. And that's where pick tools will come in handy for especially accessing that one on the back. So we're going to push the clip down on top, get those 2 on the bottom, and then pull the harness out. We're going to unplug it so we can snake the wire through there, and then I'll show you the opening and everything. All right, so we have our harness pulled out from in between the door. So there you go, that's the plug itself. Really what you're aiming at, there's a single tab up here on the top of the plug. So when this thing's plugged in the truck, it's like that. So you're going to push down on this top tab there, and then on the bottom there are 2 tabs. So there is, sorry, trying to do this one hand. There's a tab there and a tab there. That is where something like this comes in super handy, because what this allows you to do is reach up underneath the plug and poke right on those tangs so you can pull this guy out. Spend the $1.99 at Harbor Freight to pick up this pick kit, because this is super handy and it's going to save you a lot of frustration. Once you get this guy pulled off of the body, then you could go in, reach in again with the pick tool and unplug the white harness and then the brown harness from the actual door stuff. So if you look at the harness itself, you see this big opening right here. That is where we're trying to aim that orange wire through. So what we need to do is take it, run it up, poke a hole through this little grommet here, pull the wire through the door, pull it out here, and then snake it up through here. So snake it through this little accordion or caterpillar looking thing. Easiest way to do that is to get yourself a hard plastic straw or hard metal straw, feed it through there. That way you could run the wire through there and then aim it exactly where you need to put it, and then pull the straw out and everything's easy. Trying to do this with just feeding a wire through there on its own is going to be super difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to use my rubber or my straw technique, feed that straw through here, poke it out the rubber side or the open end here, and then I'll just drop that orange wire through it. But again, orange wire comes from the module, so it's already plugged in right here. We're going to tape those fuses up or zip tie them up right here so there's no rattling or anything like that. Pop a little hole here, run the wire through there. It's going to come out the door inside the jam, and then it's going to run through this little accordion thing. Once it gets through here, we could then feed the wire through there along with plugging those guys back in, and then this side is done. That wire runs over there. Okay, so I have the wire run up, poked through that little harness here. I could close this guy up right now because we don't need him anymore. Have the wire run through the door jam. I wanted to show you my straw trick real quick. So I have a plastic straw, and since it's Christmas time, it's red and white, looks like a candy cane. But I push the plastic straw carefully through that accordion thing, and it pops out this end. So all I got to do is take that wire and just feed it through there. It's like a little channel. Pull the wire all the way through, and then I just got to pull the straw out, and then it leaves that orange wire run through the little accordion thing. Super simple. But use a straw. I've seen people use coat hangers. To me, sticking sharp metal things through here in a harness that you really can't access is kind of dangerous. Use plastic. The plastic straw works perfectly fine, and it's just long enough to give you a route through that little harness. So let's get that wire run through here. Let's get it popped through the middle of the door harness because that's ultimately how it's going to enter the door, enter the body of the truck. Get those harnesses plugged right back into this guy, and then we have our wire on this side, and we're good to go. All right, so now that we have everything wired up, let's take a look at the routing real quick. My electric tape is a little funky. But anyway, so again, we tapped everything into the black plug here. So there's a gray wire. That gray wire was going to power our actual module. That's the turn signal. That's the signal that goes to the OEM, I guess to the OEM mirror harness. Then we connect the black wire for the module to the brown wire in that main harness again. And then our main harness is right up underneath here. So I have it zip tied. I drilled a little hole so I can get a zip tie to hold everything in place. I ran the orange wire. This kit comes with a ton of extra length. I just wrapped it up and then zip tied over here. It's going to be up and out of the way. I use a ton of zip ties just to hold everything over there. Got the fuse for the harness up here, so it's accessible if I ever need to do anything with it. The harness or the wire itself drops through the grommet here, travels through the door jamb plug, and then it pops out right underneath here. So it actually pops out right about here underneath the dash. You have to remove this little trim panel in order to get access to it, but once you have it through there, you could then go back and reinstall this thing. So for now, this door is done. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the skin back on it. Then we're gonna work on the driver's side over there, and then I will show you how you run this power wire to the other side, tied into the power wire from the mirror on the driver's side, and then we're gonna tap it into a fuse here. All right, I'll save you all the boring part of doing all the individual crimps on the driver's side, but tapped into everything down on the door module, ran the orange wire all the way down. Same thing as the passenger side, curled up all the excess orange wire. I have that plug for the orange wire here, fuse here, everything zip tied in place, drops through this top gasket. Then I ran it through the door harness, and then that wire will drop down right here. So I accidentally broke my candy cane straw in the process, but that's fine. Again, just like the passenger side, you got to remove this sill plate to give you access to that area where that wire is going to pop through. But it pops through right next to this like white control board up there. You run enough of the wire back there, you could reach around right here. You can feel this like plastic flap underneath, and then you'll be able to grab the excess wire. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this door panel back on. I got to finish up on the passenger side, put that door panel back on. Then all I need to do now is take that wire that we ran from the passenger door into the passenger door, or in the passenger footwell. I need to run that wire all the way across, and then we're going to tie it with a add-a-fuse, a micro 2 add-a-fuse, we're going to tie all these things into a fuse position underneath the steering column. So let's go ahead, get the doors put back together, and get working on the power here. All right, so now that we got the door panels put back together, everything's working. You can see my ambient lights, locks work and everything, so we're good. All right, so now we got our wire here. So this is the running light power, and we need to get this guy all the way over underneath the steering wheel. So what we're gonna do is there's a felt liner here with 3 push pins. We're gonna pull those push pins down, and we're basically gonna trace my ambient lighting wire. So there's a wire that comes in through the door and goes straight across. We're gonna go exactly parallel with that, zip tie it along the way, and then ultimately we'll end up with this wire over on that side of the truck. And then on the other side, then on this side, the wire's right here, and then the fuse box is right about here. So we don't have a very long run to go with this guy, but we do need to make sure we get that passenger side one over here, because we're gonna tie these two together, then we're gonna attach them to wherever that add-a-fuse went. We're gonna attach them to that add-a-fuse, and then that's what plugs up into the fuse box. All right, so we got that wire pulled over from the side, just enough to make it right to the fuse box. We got our bundle from the driver's side over here. Now, next thing we gotta do is undo this panel here. So underneath the steering wheel, there is a access panel. So there's a 7mm bolt here and a 7mm bolt just to the right. Let's turn the light on. So there's a 7mm bolt right here and right over there. Once you undo those, it's just trimmed pieces. It's 3 on this side, 3 on that side. Pull it straight down, you'll get access to the fuse box. And then I will show you what fuse we're gonna tap into and using this guy to grab power for our running lights. Then from there, we are done. So let's get this guy open. All right, so we have our panel pulled down and we have access to the fuse box. So really what fuse we are looking for, there's a 15 amp fuse right here. It's fuse position F49. We're gonna pull that fuse out, and that's where we're gonna tie into for our running lights. You can already see my add-a-fuse for my stereo turn on lead there, but we're gonna steal power or borrow power from F49 to power on the modules for our running lights. So let's get this wire pulled up neatly in here. I'll zip tie it to this rat's nest of wires that I have going on here. That's for all my ambient lighting. And then I have my driver's side wire here. And it's as simple as just tying the two together, stripping them, and then crimping them into that fuse, the add-a-fuse, and then reinstalling that 15 amp fuse. So while we're on the topic of the add-a-fuse, here is what we're using. You could see that there is a top fuse position and a bottom fuse position. The bottom fuse position, so the fuse position closest to the prongs on the bottom, this is where the original fuse from the circuit that you're tapping into goes. And then you're gonna have a top fuse. This top fuse is actually for the power that you're sending to your new accessory. You need to have a fuse in both of these for both this circuit to work as well as the circuit that you're adding to it. I see a lot of people message me all the time saying something doesn't work because they take the original fuse out and they put it in one of the terminals, but you need to have a fuse in both of these. So original fuse in the bottom one, and then your new fuse for your new accessory in the top one. So let's go ahead and get everything tied into F49 there and take a look at how these lights operate. All right, so I have everything put back together here, got everything tied together and then dropped into fuse position F49, kept the factory 15 amp fuse for that original circuit, and then I had like a 5 or 10 amp fuse that's gonna power my new running light circuit. So all the wires are tied together. Let me go ahead and get this trim piece put in. So that is actually tied into a circuit that's powered when the truck is on. It's not tied into a light circuit. So if I flip any of these to turn my marker lights on or anything like that, that's not turning those running lights on. It is gonna turn on once I auto start the car or start the truck. So take a look at it in a second. Let me get all my crap out of the truck here. Let's go ahead and get the garage door open. We'll fire it up and take a look at what these things look like and make sure that they operate the right way. All right, so I have the truck on. I was just doing kind of a testing. You can see my nice Diode Dynamic SS5 pods. They're amber right now as well. So now they match my new mirror powered lights. So the mirror lights are on. Truck's on. It's stable. It's just sitting there. So now if I turn the turn signal on, go ahead and do that. They operate just as normal. So they're on off, and I believe version 1.0 is dim and then on. So it's like partially dim on. I like the, obviously on off of the turn signal. So while that one's acting like a turn signal, this one should still be in running light mode, and it most certainly is. I like it. It looks good. Grew up for kind of a nifty little harness, nice little upgrade. Definitely look into the Boost Auto Parts harness. This is the 2.0 one. So again, this makes it a running light when the truck is on. When you have the turn signal on, it turns it back into a turn signal. But it's on all the time. So when your truck turns on, that light's gonna come on as a running light regardless of your light setup here. So if that's not your cup of tea, then maybe this harness isn't the right one for you. But I'm gonna leave a description or a link in the description for this kit and really for Boost Auto Parts harnesses. They got a bunch of them for these trucks. This is definitely a very cool one, very easy to install. Get the right tools, have those picks ready because the pick makes it really easy to get into the door harness there. But hey, for a little bit less than $100 since I got it on Black Friday, cool little upgrade. Definitely sets your truck apart from the other 5th gens floating around out there. But with that said, thank you very much for watching. Bye.